Hello, I'm Simon Croom. I'm a professor of supply chain management at the University of San Diego, and I thought I'd post a number of videos relating to how to translate traditional classroom curriculum into online curriculum, particularly under the coronavirus issues driving universities to adopt purely online delivery of learning. So the focus in this session is really about engagement. And we've got to think right from very basic principles. What we're interested in here is focusing on student learning as opposed to teaching. That's a significant, not a subtle difference. What we mean by that is you've got to keep thinking, what are the students going to be doing? Why are they going to be doing that? What's the outcome? And a critical factor when we think about student learning is engaging students, making engagement central to your curriculum, and making the learning interactive rather than passive. And I'll come back to this a little bit later, but presence by you as faculty is the buzzword. So first thing, how do we motivate students to become engaged? We reward. We can reward in terms of points through grading of participation. We can reward through formative comments. You know, it's a great suggestion, really like what you've done there. Why not try such and such and give me an example? Making sure that in the same way as you'd reward participation and attendance on the ground, you do the same online, and it's very clear to the students. And that leads me into the second part of engagement. Have very clear requirements. Describe what it is that the students must do. Put yourself in the student's shoes. This is the first time possibly that your students have taken an online course. They need to be told what to do, where to find resources. Provide guidance on how you're going to assess. What format do you want their submission or contribution? How are you going to grade it? And make sure you use variety. Use several ways to gain active participation in the class. If you're using Zoom, which is how I'm recording this today, think about encouraging students to make a contribution either through audio or through the chat facility. Think about asking students to post contributions before you hold a Zoom session. So in the same way as with a flipped classroom, where they review material first and then come and discuss it afterwards in the class, get the students to review material, send or post or submit a paragraph or two related to your question, and then that way they've got something to discuss and you know they're prepared. Third issue, depending on how many students you have in your class, it's a good idea to think about small group engagement, particularly if this is a big transition for them. Try and get students to have a social network that can be not just the people they work with on classwork, but maybe people they talk to about just, you know, the experience that they're having across the board. Often students are wary of asking the professor about some of the technical issues with the learning management system, but they'll ask their peers. And we do know that students learn predominantly from their peers. So small groups are going to facilitate that. And that means that if you are using Zoom or you're using any other form of synchronous communication, you could perhaps use tutorial sessions with a few students, i.e. one group or two groups at a time, rather than the whole code. Third issue is be very task focused. Give the students things to do. Have subgroup discussion forums or blog posts where the students may collectively develop a blog or a Google Doc. Have open-ended questions. Obviously try not to overload the students because you may be one of 5 or 6 courses that they're taking, and require that they not only post a contribution but they respond to their classes. And this is an example of what I do in a course I'm currently teaching on our graduate program in supply chain. I require the students to respond to one of the discussion topics. I give them a choice, sometimes 4 or 5 topics, sometimes 3. They have to do that by midnight at the end of day 3, and I give 45 points maximum for that post. The reason I do that is I chunk the course into 1-week blocks, and to enable students to be able to contribute by responding, you actually need everybody to make an initial post. So that's the reason for requiring by day 3. Secondly, I then have a 2 out of 7 days rule, which means they're required to participate with follow-on questions to their peers. Between 2 to 5 significant discussion question follow-on postings. And be explicit, saying I agree or that's a good point is just not sufficient. They need something that's substantial, and give an example of what substantial looks like. Final word. Be present. Let them know you are present by posting comments, stimulating discussion threads, maybe even sending a general announcement. I like the way the conversation's going this week, or I like the caliber of the posts you found, or here's an interesting news item that kind of resonates with what you've been discussing in the class. That really gets the students to feel that they are not alone.